So, when Irina Zarutska was viciously murdered aboard a Charlotte, North Carolina train on August 22nd, 2025, we really didn't know anything about her family. But her mother appeared at Trump's State of the Union address on February 24th earlier this year, and he addressed her specifically. I also want you to look at who she's with. Erica Franz Vey, widow of Charlie Kirk, supposedly. Very interesting, but not that surprising given that Kirk was talking about Zarutska's murder on social media shortly before he himself was supposedly taken out. Also, we cannot overlook her Illuminati black and white checkerboard outfit here. Do you think it's any coincidence that she's wearing that pattern? That said, the weirdest part is her name, Anya Zarutska. Go figure. Of course, initials AZ, and Erica Franz Vey calls Arizona home, the abbreviation, of course, AZ. And here she is taking the time to pose for a picture on the same exact night of the State of the Union, still wearing that Illuminati checkerboard pattern. She doesn't look too upset here, does she? I have to wonder if this is even her real mother. But for her name to be Anya, of all names, really is something else. And I already knew this ahead of time, so no need to double or triple check AI this time around, as Anya literally means mother in the Hungarian language. So they drag her supposed mother out of the woodwork for Trump's State of the Union, and her name literally means mother. How ridiculous. So we've got Anya Zarutska, or Mother Zarutska, in her Illuminati checkerboard pattern, with Erica Franz Vey, who of course was born on 11/20. Don't forget that the 1120th prime number is 9011. Here at the State of Union address on 2/24/2026, looking all sad here, but then posing for a picture later where she looks perfectly fine, I'm sure. And it gets even weirder because we know how Irina Zarutska connects to Michelle Trachtenberg and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as she was born exactly 1 year after the Gift Tower Sacrifice episode of Buffy. Well, in that show, there is this character named Anya Jenkins. You don't see the name Anya all that often. Now, Anya Christina Emanuela Jenkins was a member of the Scooby Gang and a former vengeance demon. Over 1,000 years old, she was originally known as Odd and lived in Scandinavia. After cursing her unfaithful lover, Odd was approached by the demon Dehofrin with the offer of becoming an immortal demon and dedicating her life to vengeance. She accepted and was transformed into Anyanka. Of course, if you've been watching my channel, you know that Irina Zarutska equals 184. Now, Anya Zarutska equals 158. The 158th day of the year is 6/7. We know how big the 67 number is. Elvis equals 67. Drop Dead equals 67. Satanic equals 67. It's also 41. That's April Fool's Day. It's also the date of the Seattle Space Needle prank. It's the date of their As Above, So Below ritual earlier this year with the MV Hondius and that phony trip to space. 166 in reverse, which is the 127th composite. Buildings 127, 12/7 Pearl Harbor. And there we have 76, George Bush Jr., the 9/11 president's birthday. Remember that Davy Chase died exactly 9,111 days after his birthday in the year 2001, the 9/11 president's birthday in the year of 9/11. And speaking of Davy Chase, not only is the 158th day of the year 6/7, but the 158th composite is 205, and Davy was born on the 205th day of the year, 7/24. 158 itself is the 120th composite. That, of course, is Inauguration Day. 996 is the 828th composite. Remember the partial blood moon eclipse on that date. Another high watch date. In fact, any date from 8/21 all the way to 8/29 is pretty high watch, in my opinion. Now, the name Anya also equals 41. Again, April Fool's Day. We also have our 67 here. Some other important numbers there, but I'm going to skip over those. So, since Anya means mother, how interesting then is it that Mother Zarutska gives us our 182. Remember how that number connects to 822, as the 182nd composite is 234, and 822 is the 234th day of the year. Of course, 182 itself is the 139th composite. Remember, Bonnie Tyler equals 139. You know, all the stuff going on with her recently and with all the eclipses. She was buried the day after Hayden Panettiere died, and Hayden Panettiere died exactly 182 weeks after her brother died. 61 is the 18th prime. Of course, that's a 666 number. And 196 ordinal. The composite is 250. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get to the bizarre connections to the Anya character from Buffy, because Anyanka Zarutska equals 184, just like Irina Zarutska. Remember, once she became a vengeance demon in the show, her name was Anyanka. So yes, how very strange that would equal the exact same as Irina Zarutska in ordinal. With just Anyanka, we have 67 again, 22 in reduction, which again can be like August 22nd, the 1-year anniversary of Irina Zarutska's death. The date 9/11 is 9,111 days old. 122 in reverse. Remember, the 122nd day of the year is 5/2, which was a huge date this year. In fact, the Gift Tower Sacrifice episode of Buffy turned exactly 9,111 days old on that date. Of course, Olivia Rodrigo on Saturday Night Live that date as well, making fun of boxer Jake Paul. She, of course, did the song Drop Dead. Drop Dead equals 67. The music video for the song was shot at Versailles. The music video and the song released on 4/17. Trump showed up at Versailles on 6/17, which is 4/17 on the Roman calendar. No coincidence, I assure you. That's one of many times this year that I have been proven 100% correct in my pattern research. Another 41 there in reverse reduction, 823 standard, 220 in primes. Remember, Olivia Rodrigo, born on 220 in the year 2003. 220th day of the year, Lionsgate Portal Day, 8/8. And you know how the 220 connects to the Gift Tower Sacrifice episode. 522 times 522 is 110. 110 plus 110 is 220. The two 522s to symbolize the two twin towers, as it was the Tower Sacrifice episode. But not only that, to also symbolize 284, because 522, the 142nd day of the year, and 142 plus 142 is 284. Michelle Trachtenberg, who was the Tower Sacrifice, born on the 284th day of the year, 9 months, 11 days into the year. A very complicated puzzle. And before I move on, Lionsgate Portal, another 184, just like Irina Zarutska, just like Anyanka Zarutska. Why do you think that boat, which had just visited the Statue of Liberty, capsized on 8/8, the Lionsgate portal date? Another ritual for the anniversary of 9/11 on 8/22. Now, you remember that Anya's character in Buffy was originally named Odd. Well, Odd, Anya Zarutska, 184 yet again. Can you believe this? So yes, my suspicions about her name being Anya were spot on. I already knew about Irina's connection to Michelle Trachtenberg, as she was born on 5/22/2002, the same date The Gift aired the year prior. So, this mother character put out there with the name Anya for a huge, huge reason. Not only because Anya means mother in Hungarian, but also to connect to the Anya character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, what are the odds that Irina Zarutska is 184? Her mother's name is Anya, just like the character from Buffy, who is also known as both Anyanka and Odd. And Anyanka Zarutska also is 184. And so is Odd Anya Zarutska. Come the hell on! Anybody who cannot see what I'm showing you here is absolute, undeniable ritualistic coding, is blind as a bat. And to make it even better, just the name Odd equals 26 for the year 2026, our 55 Satan number 205. Remember Davy Chase, born on the 205th day of the year, died on 6/16, the 616th prime, 4547. 156 in Sumerian, the number that connects to 9/11 twice. 82 in primes. Remember J.D. Vance, born on 8/2, as was Wes Craven. Remember Wes Craven's connection to Hayden Panettiere. You know who else was born on August 2nd? Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. And he is the sculptor of the Statue of Liberty. How appropriate that he would have August in his name, right? In fact, this is really perfect because look at what his name equals in Latin. 1069. Remember, not only is 1069 the 180th prime, again that huge number, but the 1069th composite is 1275. An even huger number because that's what Jesus Christ equals in Latin. And you know who else equals 1069 in Latin? Olivia Rodrigo. Like I said, absolutely a key player in this intricate puzzle. And she also equals 829, which of course is 9/11 on the Julian calendar, Judgment Day in Terminator 2, the date the Trump family disappeared in Australia. And she's having her Daisy Chain Fields Festival on 8/29 in Irvine, California. So, absolutely huge, both of these numbers here. Just like I've told you all along, Olivia Rodrigo is huge. I mean, Trump already proved me spot on, dead correct, with her drop dead Versailles and him appearing at Versailles 6/17, which is 4/17 on the Roman calendar, the date Drop Dead was released. Of course, we all know what happened to Marie Antoinette, who once lived at Versailles. A guillotine dropped and made her dead. Rodrigo, of course, is also connected to 5/22, Irina Zarutska's birth date, the Gift air date, because she released The Cure on that date this year. Remember my video, Trump and the Drop Dead Cure. You remember he was talking about having a cure for people who have died. If you think any of this is a coincidence, again, you're fooling yourselves. Now on Buffy, Anya is played by Emma Caulfield Ford, and her name gives us our 888 B system number, which means, of course, you also get 148. Both mine and Donnie Darko's birthday, the 148th day of the year, May 28. You also have your 76, 311. 3 times 11, of course, is 33. We know what happened on 311 in 2020 in regards to the whole corona situation, don't we? 1010 in Fibonacci, ironically enough, given that Anya Zarutska was at the State of the Union address with Erica Franzwey, who famously ziplined past not only the 910, but also the 1010 in the Emerson Drive music video. And before Emma was married, it was just Emma Caulfield 105, which can also be 10-5. That, of course, is the date Trump mentioned the calm before the storm back in 2017, and it's also the date he returned to Butler in 2024. A huge date. Remember that idiot Travis Kelce turned exactly 35 years old, or 12,784 days old, on the date Trump returned to Butler. We also have our 5/1 date of pagan sacrifice. Michelle Trachtenberg was the tower sacrifice in The Gift, and they sacrificed her for real on 2/26 last year. In my opinion, with everything I've discovered, and believe me, I've digged into Michelle Trachtenberg more than anyone else has, she was born to be sacrificed. She never stood a chance. 246, the 246th day of the year, is Claire Kramer's birthday. She played the Beast Glory, who was the one who wanted to sacrifice Michelle's character atop the tower to open the hell portal. The 246th day of the year, of course, being 9/3, a huge number in its own right. Remember 1993, when the World Trade Center bombing took place on 2/26, which would eventually be Michelle Trachtenberg's actual death date. Not to mention United 93 on 9/11 and Aleister Crowley's Thelema number. And lo and behold, Fibonacci gives us our 821. Hayden Panettiere birthday, Central and Greenville, South Carolina area code, the date of the 2017 eclipse, which exited the U.S. via South Carolina at 2:48 p.m. 2:48, of course, being another variation of 284. Michelle Trachtenberg's birthday, the 284th day of the year. And 821 is the 142nd prime. May 22nd, the 142nd day of the year. Now, the full name of her character on Buffy, Anya Christina Emanuela Jenkins, gives us our 321, the 254th composite, 254, of course, being 9/11. Remember, Manhattan equals 321 in Latin. We also have our 123 murder code there in reduction, 92 in Chaldean. Take away the two middle names, just Anya Jenkins, 123 murder code in ordinal. 42, our 66 twin number last year of the Fire Horse number. 174 is a big number, but I can never remember the reason why. And no, it's not just because the 174th composite is 222, our order out of chaos as above, so below number, which, by the way, also connects to 284, as I've shown in the past. There's another reason, but I'm forgetting it. It just keeps getting better because Anya made her first appearance ever on Buffy in the episode titled The Wish. Not only does that equal 92 in ordinal, but most importantly, it equals 1120 in Latin. Anya Zarutska with Erica Franzwey at Trump's State of the Union. Erica Franzwey, born on 11/20/1988. And again, the 1120th prime number is 9011. Again, this whole situation is about the 9111 day anniversary of 9/11. Ritual after ritual after ritual this year for that anniversary. Also in Buffy, Anya has a bizarre fear of bunny rabbits. In her opinion, every rabbit is a bad bunny. You know, like that bad bunny idiot that performed the Super Bowl. Bad rabbit. 184 again, like Irina Zarutska. 59, the 59th day of the year is 228, the Iran War start date. Another 67, and 201 in Latin, like Event 201. Do not forget the 201st prime is 1229. Remember how that connects to Southland Tales, My State of Texas, boxer Anthony Joshua, the character boxer Santeros, played by Dwayne Johnson, Hannah Rapp, who was killed here in My State of Texas. She was also a boxer, and so much more. Of course, the rabbit in Donnie Darko is named Frank, and Frank the Bad Rabbit equals 142, the 142nd day of the year, May 22nd. Also connects to 821, as 821 is the 142nd prime. Remember, Panettiere born 821. She was in Ice Princess with Michelle Trachtenberg. We also have 317, which is the backwards 713, the big 137. Don't forget that Final Destination came out on 317 in the year 2000. There's our 110 there in reverse reduction. 51, sacrifice date in Chaldean. And Bad Bunny Rabbit Frank equals 185. And at this point, you just have to laugh because 185 is the 142nd composite. In fact, the divisors sum up to 228. Also 77 in a reduction, that's our World Trade Center Pentagon number. And 77 is the 188th day of the year. Michelle Trachtenberg, of course, equals 188 in ordinal gematria. 328 in reverse, 3 times 28 is 84. 121 reverse reduction, the 121st day of the year is May Day. In Sumerian, our 1110, which of course is a combination of 111 and 110, both big numbers, but it can also be 1011, Michelle Trachtenberg's birthday. And again, Anya was a vengeance demon on the show. Vengeance Demon 127, like Buildings 127, our Pearl Harbor date, 12 times 7 is 84. 64, 6 months, 4 days into the year is 7/4, the date of the big 250. 8/4, of course, is 6/4 on the Roman calendar. 6/4 is 4/4, 44 the kill number, and so on. And we have another 1120 in Fibonacci. Again, Erica Franzwe's birth date. And since she was a vengeance demon, how interesting that vengeance for Irina is another 182. Another 92, another 88. Our 777 in Satanic, which of course is what order out of chaos equals in Latin. And 277 in reverse, the 59th prime, the 59th day of the year, 228. But you know what's an even bigger deal? Vengeance for Irina Zarutska, 299 ordinal. On the 11th of August, we entered the 299th month since 9/11. And right next to it, 119, the backwards 9/11. And over there in reverse reduction, the smoking gun, the 142. Also, during the State of the Union, Trump chewed out a bunch of people for not standing for Anya Zarutska. He famously said, "How do you not stand?" That equals 233, which is the 51st prime. So basically, it's a sacrifice number. 71 in reduction. You know, Lindsey Graham was sacrificed on 7/11 at the age of 71. And I showed this before. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham visited Skyfall, a leading Ukrainian defense technology and drone manufacturing company, on July 10th. during his final trip to Kiev. He passed away suddenly the following day on 7/11. This, of course, is where he viewed the vampire drones. And take a look at what vampire drone equals. 184. Like Irina Zarutska. We also have our 67, 824. Remember, of course, that Lindsey Graham's death was connected to not only the 35-year anniversary of the eclipse of the century, which happened on 7/11/1991, but also the August 21st, 2017 eclipse, which exited the U.S. via his home state, South Carolina, at exactly 2:48 p.m. 824, another variation of the 248. Just like Michelle Trachtenberg's birthday, the 284th day of the year is another variation of 248, 824, etc. And interesting that they would be vampire drones, isn't it? Considering I showed the fall episode of The Strain, and that, of course, is about vampires nuking the Statue of Liberty so that New York goes dark and they can rule over the city, blocking out the sun like an eclipse does. Add the S at the end for plural, and you get 192. The 192nd day of the year is 7/11, Graham's death date, and 6/14, Trump's birthday. And of course, there is a James Bond film called Skyfall, so how incredibly fitting is it that James Bond equals 822 in the hardest cipher to find matches, not to mention the big 250 in primes. 5-2, you remember how big that date was this year for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that the Gift episode turned exactly 9,111 days old on that date. And Skyfall equals 284. Michelle Trachtenberg, the tower sacrifice in that episode, born on the 284th day of the year. Also 86. She was 86th. Graham was 86th. According to the news, this Skyfall facility was 86th by Russia. And of course, Irina Zarutska, 86th, along with many, many others. Skyfall also equals 547 in Latin. Trump, the 45-47 president, it's the 101st prime. And of course, 101 is the 26th prime. I also find it rather interesting that Skyfall is 331 in Satanic. Again, Heathers came out on that date in 1989, exactly one day before the Seattle Space Needle prank about it falling out of the sky. Remember, the Space Needle-like structure in the new Final Destination was called the Skyview. Of course, Heathers released 47 days before 9/11, and it has Christian Slater in the film as Psycho JD in Ohio, son of a building demolitionist. What do you think happened on 9/11? A lot of activity in the sky causing the buildings to fall, and no, I don't mean airplanes. Shannon Doherty, of course, in Heathers as well. She died on Trump's Butler ear clip date, 7/13/2024, and exactly 7 months, 13 days later, Michelle Trachtenberg died. 331 is also the 67th prime. And again, we know that Lindsey Graham's death was an eclipse ritual. I proved that in my Lindsey Graham video last month. But who just died on 8/16 for the upcoming anniversary of 9/11 on 8/22, and who also connects to eclipses just like Graham did? Hayden Panettiere. So how funny is it that Lindsey Graham equals 8/16? Graham, of course, from Central South Carolina, which has the same exact area codes as Greenville, South Carolina, where Panettiere died, one of those two area codes being 821. Again, the August 21st, 2017 eclipse exited the country via South Carolina at 2:48 p.m. The number 821, of course, being the 142nd prime, May 22nd, the 142nd day of the year. And it just so happens to be Hayden Panettiere's birthday. In fact, the 2017 eclipse was on her 28th birthday. Of course, when I was doing the Lindsey Graham video, I had no idea that Hayden Panettiere was going to die on 8/16 in the very state that he's from. So, undeniable confirmation right there. And again, Graham died at the age of 71, which started this whole tangent to begin with. By the way, something that I did show in my Lindsey Graham video but neglected to show in my Hayden Panettiere videos is that Greenville's other area code, 864, is the 713th composite. So both area codes, very important. But yeah, 71 with the How Do You Not Stand, again, which got me onto the Lindsey Graham tangent. We also have 199, speaking of Hayden Panettiere. Because remember, that is what the title of her memoir equals. And that the 199th composite is 254, which of course is 9/11. 199 itself, the 46 prime. Panettiere died 46 days after Netflix added that stupid Heroes show to their website. So very interesting that we get that number as well. There's our EL number, our 76, George Bush Jr., the 9/11 president's birthday, 2087 Latin, which is the 315th prime, 315, the 74th day of the year. Now, do you remember this moron who played at this year's Idiot Bowl, Bad Bunny? Of course, when I heard his name, I thought of Anya from Buffy, as again, she is terrified of rabbits. Well, how very interesting then that his full name equals 321 ordinal, just like the Anya character from Buffy's full name equals 321 ordinal. And they both have 4 names. Quite the so-called coincidence, don't you think? And with his name, not only do we have that 321, which of course is the 254th composite, but we have the 156, the number that connects to 9/11 twice. And 1464 in Latin, which is the 1231st composite. Remember that odd omen code I found on 12/31/2025? In my opinion, a signal, a bad omen for the year 2026. Well, that omen code, of course, had to do with Mercedes Monet. Of course, Monet, an anagram for omen. And if you want the full story on that, go find that video. It's too much to tell right now. So interesting that Mercedes Monet, August 22nd, gives us another 248, just like Hayden Panettiere, just like the time that the 8/21/2017 eclipse left the country via South Carolina. And 10/11 in Latin, Michelle Trachtenberg's birthday, the 284th day of the year, exactly 9 months, 11 days into the year. Remember, Latin, the hardest cipher to find matches. Michelle, of course, has everything to do with this, as the gift aired on that all-important 5/22 date, and Irina Zarutska was born on that date 1 year later. And again, 10/11, the 284th day of the year, 248, a variation of 284, as is 4/28, when Trump received his Naval Bell gift from Charles III. A gift like the gift. And I have found many interesting omen connections with Mercedes Monet. I could really do a whole video just about that, but that's neither here nor there. I just thought this was incredibly interesting. Monet, by the way, is related to Snoop Dogg. You know, he did that video about Trump. And you know, the crazy thing is, if we use Mercedes Monet's real full name, she has 4 names too. Just like Bad Bunny, just like the character Anya on Buffy. Usually people have a first, middle, and last name, but not in these cases. And her full name, another 184. Go figure, am I right? There's our 122. The 122nd day of the year is 5/2. 1069 in primes. What did I tell you about that number earlier? And how it connects to the 180 and the 1275. Now, from the murder of Irina Zarutska to the end of the year when the Omen Code occurred is exactly 131 days. 131 days into the new year is May 11th. Now, we all remember the whole hantavirus thing with the ship, the MV Hondius, don't we? Exactly 1 month before 5/11, patient 0 from that ship died on 4/11. Of course, 4 months, 11 days into the year is 5/11. And as I showed in my series of videos completely destroying that whole nonsensical story several months back, the first known case of the hantavirus in 1993 was a man from Crown Point, New Mexico, and he came into the hospital on May 11th of that year, 1993, of course, 33 years ago. Remember that patient 0 who died aboard the MV Hondius was Leo Schipelrud, or however you say his last name. Well, his last name just so happens to equal 142, and his first name is Leo. August 22nd is in the season of Leo. His last name also equals 182. You know how that connects to 822, as the 182nd composite is 234, 822, the 234th day of the year. It also connects to Bonnie Tyler, as 182 itself is the 139th composite. Bonnie Tyler equals 139 ordinal. It connects to Hayden Panettiere because she died exactly 182 weeks after her brother died. And by the way, I pointed out that the logo on the MV Hondius ship looked a lot like the Umbrella Corporation logo from the Resident Evil zombie films. Well, there's a new Resident Evil film coming out soon, and it's from the director of Weapons. You know, the film that came out last year on the 8/8 Lionsgate portal date with Gladys Lilly. That name, a perfect 4-cipher match to Donald Trump, played by Amy Madigan, born on 9/11. Well, what would you say if I told you that Amy Madigan also gives us 182? So there you have it. And of course, I've shown before that her name equals 88, and the film Weapons came out on 8/8. Now, from Irina's death to the Omen Code last year, also 4 months, 9 days. 49 is the 33rd composite. Well, I want to show you something else I showed while doing my mini videos about Davy Chase. On her 11th birthday, 7/24/2001, Larry Silverstein took out his policy on the World Trade Center, and then exactly 49 days later, 9/11 happened. And guess what date it lands on if you go 9,111 days later from the date Silverstein took out the policy, from the date Davy Chase turned 11? July 4th this year, the date of the Big 250. Let us not forget that Taylor Swift's so-called wedding was on 7/3 and went into the early morning hours of 7/4 in New York City, and that the sky turned an apocalyptic blood red. Not a good sign. But anyway, with that said, since 9/11 occurred 49 days after that date, I decided to go 49 days after 7/4 this year, and go figure it lands on August 22nd. And yes, I just thought that was interesting, given that Zarutska died 4 months, 9 days before the Omen Code occurred on New Year's Eve last year, and we seem to get another omen with the Swift wedding and the sky turning blood red. Now, it's also 18 weeks and 5 days, which can be like 185. And do you think it's in any way a coincidence that 185 is the 142nd composite? Not to mention the divisors sum up to 228. So yeah, the whole Monet Omen code has proven to be quite fruitful overall. Now getting back to that Bad Bunny buffoon, going from his birth date to 8/22 this year, 11,853 days. 853 plus 11 is 864. And remember, that is the other area code of Greenville, South Carolina, as well as Central South Carolina. And as I showed earlier, that area code is the 713th composite. Wow, right? Like I said, it all connects. I mean, why is her mother Anya Zarutska? Why is the character Anya on Buffy afraid of rabbits? Why does she consider every rabbit a bad bunny? I mean, it all circles around a crazy matrix. Of course, 8 plus 5 plus 3 is 16. That could be 1116. The upside down, 91101. You can also do 1 plus 1 is 2, and it would be 216. 8, 4. 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216. 32 years, 5 months, 12 days. 32 plus 5 plus 12 is 49. Again, 49, the 33rd composite, and I showed you the 49 connections. And if we go from Bad Bunny's birth to Irina's death, 11,488 days. 488 plus 11 is 499. And the 499th composite is 611. The upside down, 911. 499 is also the 95th prime. 95th composite is 126. Kobe Bryant death date. The 126th composite, 165. Trump born on the 165th day of the year. 5 times 19 is 95. Remember, 519 is when Hayden Panettiere released her memoir. The 95th day of the year is also 4-5. And again, you can do it like this. 4 plus 8 plus 8 is 20. 1120. That, of course, is Erica Franzwe's birth date. Remember, the 1120th prime is 9011. Again, you can also do 1 plus 1 is 2, and you would have your 220. The 220th day of the year, 8/8, the Lionsgate portal date, the total amount of floors in both World Trade Center towers combined, and Olivia Rodrigo, born on 2/20 in the year 2003. 31 years, 5 months, 12 days. Consider this March 15th plus 12 days. It lands on March 27th. That's the 86th day of the year. Irina Zarutska was certainly 86th. And 377 plus 12 is 389. 389 is the 77th prime number, our World Trade Center Pentagon number. Remember that 77 is the 188th day of the year. Michelle Trachtenberg equals 188 in gematria. In the same year, Bad Bunny's birthday is 165 days before 8/22. Trump born on the 165th day of the year. 23 weeks, 4 days, 8/22 is the 234th day of the year. And then you go back around from 8/22 to his next birthday, it's 200 days. Trump's reverse birthday, 7/19, is the 200th day of the year. And it's also 6 months, 16 days, who died on 6/16 and was another huge sacrifice. Poor Davy Chase. Don't forget that the 616th prime number is 4547, like Trump is the 4547 president. And wow, it's also 28 weeks, 4 days, or 284. Michelle Trachtenberg, born on the 284th day of the year. I mean, I rest my case, man. Some dark magics at work here, to put it lightly. You know, I usually do my research before doing my videos, but here's one that I did not do ahead of time. If I had, I would have shown this earlier on in the video. From the air date of The Wish, which is the first episode of Buffy that Anya ever appeared in, to 8/22 this year, 10,119 days. That is a backwards 9/11/01 number. Can you believe this nonsense, man? And this is the date that 9/11 turns 9,111 days old. After August 22nd, they are not going to have another time to do a 9,111 day date ritual anytime soon. If my calculations are correct, it'll be May 26th, 2029 at the earliest that they'll get another chance to do a ritual involving the days and a 9/11/01 number. And again, I'm not saying anything's actually going to happen, but there are very obviously blatant as all hell rituals being carried out. I'm showing you that time after time after time after time again here, and if you cannot see that, I really, genuinely don't know how to help you. I admit I don't have the best formatting on YouTube. I admit I'm a bit scattershot in doing this. I'm not a pro, but the information is sound. At this point, I have to ask you, do you honestly think it is in any way a coincidence that Irina Zarutska's mother is named Anya? Please, if you do, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's just incredible, man. That is just absolutely incredible. I'm dumbfounded at this. I mean, I have so many connections. I'm never going to be able to get them all done in time before 8/22. But this right here is another just absolutely mammoth connection. Again, Anya, first ever appearance in Buffy in the episode titled The Wish on December 8th, 1998. Of course, 1998 is the 666 year. And from that date to 8/22 this year, 10,119 days, a perfect backwards 9/11/01. And this is the date that 9/11 turns 9,111 days old. Pure and utter insanity. Also, 119 plus 10 is 129. The 129th day of the year is 5/9. And the Iran War started on the 59th day of the year, 228. And it gets even better because 1 plus 1 plus 9 is 11. 10/11, Michelle Trachtenberg's birthday. So yeah, absolutely loaded. And it's too bad I didn't know about this sooner. It would have been more towards the beginning of the video. I compile as many notes as I can ahead of time, but sometimes there are things I think about in the moment of actually doing the videos. And I showed you all those 49 connections for a reason, because 27 plus 8 plus 14 is yet another 49. You can also do 278 plus 14 is 292, and the 292nd day of the year is 10/19, another backwards 9/11. By the way, having this 8 months, 14 days in here means that December 18th is 8 months and 14 days before 8/22, and 8/14 is the 226th day of the year. Remember, Michelle Trachtenberg died on 2/26. And don't forget, I showed you earlier that in Gematria, the wish equals 1120 Latin. Erica Franzfey birthday, the 1120th prime, 9011, also equals 92 ordinal. Remember, Jennifer Syme died on 4/2, the 92nd day of the year, 162 days before 9/11. In my opinion, sacrificed by her boyfriend, Keanu Reeves, who of course was born on 9/2. In fact, it's time for another brief little side tangent. I know you people just love my side tangents. Jennifer Syme in Gematria gives us our 1086, the beast system number in reverse Sumerian, 181 in reverse. That, of course, is the 42nd prime. She died on 4/2, 162 days before 9/11. 143 ordinal, just barely missed that 142, although 143 is interesting as well, and it actually connects to Mercedes Moné, as wrestler Owen Hart fell from the top of Kemper Arena in Kansas City on the 143rd day of the year back in 1999. Another fall, you know, all of the fall symbolism. He fell to his death on live pay-per-view. And in the company All Elite Wrestling, they have a tournament to honor Owen Hart. It's called the Owen Hart Cup. And the winner of that tournament this year was Mercedes Moné. And they're in Latin 1310, which is the 1095th composite, and 1095 is the 911th composite. In fact, the divisors sum up to 1776. And don't forget that Jennifer Syme was born on 12/7, that Pearl Harbor date. Don't forget Neo's passport in The Matrix that expires on 9/11/01. Jennifer died in a single Jeep crash. Of course, you know how suspicious those single vehicle accidents are. Well, Butler, Pennsylvania is known as the birthplace of the Jeep. Not many people know that, I'm willing to bet. And birthplace of the Jeep, 184. So there you go. It does connect to this video. It's not just a tangent for the hell of it. And I also just have to point out that Keanu sacrificed Jennifer Syme equals 1776 in the hardest cipher to find matches. Oh man, I just don't even know what else to say at this point, really. I mean, I of course feel horrible for Jennifer Syme. I think she deserves justice, but it's just off the charts, man. It really is the evil. Now back to good old Anya Zarutska, if that is her real name. Now, I've been saying in my other videos that the 224 was an important date regarding Irina Zarutska and that I would get back to it in a future video. Well, here we are, because this State of the Union, where Anya first appeared, was on 2/24 this year. Well, considering that Irina was a Ukrainian refugee, how interesting is it that on February 24th, 2022, during the Russo-Ukrainian War, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, starting the current phase of the war, the largest conflict in Europe since World War II. Same date that her mother appeared, 4 years later. You know, kinda like how Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart was released exactly 4 years after the end of the Iranian Revolution. And 4 years is 1,461 days. 4 plus 6 plus 1 is 11, 111. Of course, 9/11 is the date that leaves 111 days remaining in the year. The 111th day of the year is 4/21, Rome's founding date. 4 years is also 48 months. The backwards 8/4. The 48th prime is 2/23. The backwards 3/22. Now I find this very interesting because from the invasion date to 8/22 this year, the 1-year anniversary of Irina's death, it's 234 weeks and 2 days. Remember, 8/22 is the 234th day of the year. This is like 2 234s, 2 8/22s, which of course is accurate because Irina was killed on 8/22 last year, which was the first one, and this year will be the second one. It's also 1,640 days. 640 plus 1 is 641, which is the 116th prime, the backwards 611, the upside down 911. Can also be 164 with a portal or just a drop 0. The 164th day of the year is 613. Remember that Hayden Panettiere's character on that stupid Heroes show died in Odessa, Texas on 6/13/2014. And again, you can do a lot of different things with different numbers, like 6 plus 4 is 10, 110. You know how important that number is. 1 plus 6 is 7, 7/4. In fact, consider this: 45 plus 29, get another 7/4. 53 plus 29 is 82. Remember, the designer of the Statue of Liberty with August in his name was born on 8/2, as was J.D. Vance, as was Wes Craven, who connects to Hayden Panettiere through the Scream films. But this, my friends, is what I consider to be truly and genuinely explosive. If we go from the date where Russia invaded the Ukraine to the death of Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee, it's 1,275 days. What have I told you about that number? Why is that number so incredibly important? Because again, it is what Jesus Christ equals in Latin. The hardest cipher to find matches. So, more absolutely undeniable confirmation of this huge ritualistic pattern that has been going on. And I'd bet my bottom dollar nobody else has discovered any of this pattern at all. I certainly haven't heard it discussed anywhere else. Now, if we go from Irina's murder to her mother's appearance at the State of the Union, it's 186 days. The 186th prime is 1109, the backwards 911. It's also 6 months and 2 days. 6-2 is 4-2 on the Roman calendar. Remember Jennifer Syme. And 8-2 is 6-2. And from the emergence of her mother to the 1-year anniversary of her death, 179 days. The 179th day of the year, by the way, is Elon Musk's birthday. Remember, there was that skydiving plane crash on his birthday this year, and there was also a skydiving plane crash on Trump's birthday this year. 179 is also the 41st prime, 4/1, April Fool's Day. Remember, they were doing their as above, so below ritual with the MV Hondius and that fake trip to space this year. And the 179th triangular is 16,110, a perfect upside down 9/11/01 number. Also 5 months, 29 days, of course 5/29, JFK's birthday, the 35th president. We know what happened to him. And 25 weeks, 4 days, or 254. Of course, the 254th day of the year is 9/11, and 8/22 is the 9,111 day anniversary of 9/11. 224, by the way, is the 55th day of the year, 55 the Satan number. And again, Irina was killed in Charlotte, North Carolina. In that town, there is a building called the BOA building, and it has some very interesting murals, much like the Denver airport. Check out this eclipse symbolism here. Checkerboard Illuminati floor, pyramid, etc. Also a burning tree in the background, possibly representing the tree of life. But yeah, very interesting murals, perhaps something to look into later. And this character here could perhaps symbolize the Antichrist. He does remind me a lot of Damien from the Omen films. Maybe even a little bit of Trump in there. And this here coming down, like splitting his head in two, perhaps like a sword or a head wound. And of course, we know that North Carolina equals 888, our beast system number. But I think that's enough for now. A lot more to come with this information because there's so much to tell. All glory to God, and thank you for watching.